I want to show you how to identify the person who has been assigned or has volunteered to bewitch your life. Now let me say this. The word bewitching is not just about voodoo, witchcraft, or someone wearing black robes and chanting in the forest. No. To be bewitched means to be spiritually manipulated, emotionally hijacked, mentally seduced, and destiny distracted by someone carrying a hidden agenda. And here is the tragedy. The person bewitching you is often close, not distant, not a stranger, not someone in another country, but someone close enough to study you, learn you, imitate, trust, and violate it. In secret, bewitching spirits require access. They don't operate from afar. They need your ear, your presence, your trust, your secrets. And so they come wearing the mask of friendship, the veil of loyalty, the disguise of mentorship, or even the name of family. The Bible says in Galatians 3:1, "O foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you?" Paul didn't say what bewitched you. He said who. The Spirit worked through a person. You see, demonic assignments need human vassals. Satan himself could not approach Eve in the garden. He needed a serpent. Spirits need bodies to carry out their work. So when a person is bewitching you, they are housing a spirit whose mission is to confuse your mind, delay your purpose, and fragment your focus. One of the first signs you are being bewitched by someone is confusion. Your peace disappears when they enter. You begin to second guess yourself, question your decisions, and feel spiritually foggy. They interrupt your clarity. You used to have direction, now everything feels stuck. You used to pray boldly, now there's hesitation. You used to walk with spiritual confidence, but since that person came into your life, there's constant emotional traffic. That's not a coincidence. It's an assignment. Another sign is stagnation. You were making progress, doors were opening, favor was flowing, but now nothing moves. The heavens feel shut, the oil has dried. And yet the only variable that changed was that someone new got close to you. Someone who claps for you in public, but questions your growth in private. Someone who says they support you, but secretly sabotages you with manipulative words, controlling suggestions, and strange silence when you succeed. That is not a friend. That is a spiritual agent sent to monitor and limit your destiny. Let me tell you something. People carrying bewitching spirits often come with gifts. They are generous manipulators. They bless you to bind you. They offer help to own you. They do not want to empower you. They want to enslave your loyalty. And the moment you begin to outgrow their influence, they will become offended. That offense is the exposure. That resistance is the unveiling. Because bewitchers don't want you free. They want you controlled. And anything
to reverse your discernment. And in some cases, the retaliation becomes aggressively targeted. You begin to have dreams where animals, particularly snakes, black dogs, or birds, appear. You may hear voices or see figures in the corner of your eye. You wake up with bruises or marks. Your phone glitches during prayer. People you trust begin to distance themselves for no reason. Business opportunities stall. Relationships break down without warning. You experience unexplained delays, recurring conflict, and doors slamming shut right when they were about to open. All of these are often signs that Are you ready? Let's go deep. 1. They launch spiritual retaliation. When a witch has been exposed, one of the first and most immediate responses you'll encounter is spiritual retaliation. This is not accidental. This is not emotional. It is deliberate warfare launched from the invisible realm in response to a rupture in their control. Because to a witch, being exposed is not just an embarrassment. It is a spiritual threat, a dismantling of the network of demonic alliances they've carefully constructed around your life, family, church, or destiny. And once that network is interrupted, they respond by sending spiritual attacks to reestablish dominance and intimidate you into silence. You must understand, witches do not operate alone. They are backed by unclean spirits, covenants, and often ancestral agreements that empower them with insight and access. These forces thrive in hiddenness. So when you uncover their presence, when you identify the dream, the word, the pattern, the object, or the person, they don't just walk away quietly. They retaliate through spiritual aggression designed to weaken your resolve and make you regret ever opening your mouth. And how does this retaliation show up? It is rarely obvious at first. It will creep in through subtle but invasive disruptions. You'll begin to feel tired even after rest. You'll feel emotionally disoriented. You may experience strange body aches with no medical explanation. Your thoughts become foggy. You'll wake up from dreams where you're being chased, paralyzed, bitten, or locked in dark rooms. These are not just bad dreams. They are indicators that spiritual warfare has intensified, and you are now a targeted vessel of light. One of the classic signs of retaliation is a sudden heaviness upon your life, especially after a spiritual high. After exposing witchcraft, you might feel a spiritual crash. Why? Because retaliation comes to suppress your spiritual momentum. It seeks to drain your energy, steal your clarity, and inject confusion. Some people begin to question themselves. Did I judge wrongly? Was that really witchcraft? Maybe I overreacted. That's not you doubting. That's a demonic whisper trying to reverse your discernment. And in some cases, the retaliation becomes aggressively targeted. You begin to have dreams where animals, particularly snakes, black dogs, or birds, appear. You may hear voices or see figures in the corner of your eye. You wake up with bruises or marks. Your phone glitches during prayer. People you trust begin to distance themselves for no reason. Business opportunities stall, relationships break down without warning. You experience unexplained delays, recurring conflict, and doors slamming shut right when they were about to open. All of these are often signs that a spiritual counterattack has been launched, not just to slow you down, but to reclaim spiritual territory they once occupied in your life. Now let me speak with clarity. This is not to make you afraid. This is to make you aware. The moment a witch launches retaliation, they reveal their fear. They are not retaliating because you are weak. They are retaliating because you've become a spiritual problem. You've disrupted demonic peace. You've interfered with agreements. You've closed portals they were using for decades. That's why they strike back. They don't want you to rise. They don't want you to fast. They don't want you to keep praying. So they send a wave of fatigue. They launch dream attacks. They stir offense. They provoke misunderstandings. Their goal is to shut your spirit down. But you are not without recourse. The kingdom has given us weapons that are not carnal, but mighty through God. When retaliation hits, the response is not to shrink back, it is to fortify your atmosphere. You do not retreat, you intensify your warfare. You cover your sleep with declarations like, "Tonight no evil shall befall me. I sleep in the presence of the Most High. I shut every spiritual portal and I reverse every evil projection." You must walk through your house with authority and speak. "Every spirit of retaliation sent against me for exposing darkness, I command you to flee. I bind your operation. I revoke your assignment. I plead divine fire against your schemes. I reclaim my peace, my clarity, and my strength." You begin to anoint your doors, your bed, your devices. You lay hands on your children and spouse and say, "No backlash shall come upon this house. This house is off limits. This bloodline is covered. This atmosphere is fortified." And sometimes you must fast, not for breakthrough, but for defense. Fast to reset the spiritual climate. Fast to break retaliation cycles. Fast to shut down residual monitoring spirits. Because witches often don't just strike once. They probe for weakness. And when they find a gate still open, they strike again. You must also pray what I call preventive warfare prayers. That means even before you expose something, you go ahead of time and shut down every backlash. You declare, Lord, let every witchcraft retaliation be rendered void before it begins. I preempt every demonic response. I bind every returning spirit. I break every counterattack before it forms. This is spiritual intelligence, not paranoia, because retaliation is real. But your awareness is your weapon. When you see the patterns, when you discern the attack, you don't panic. You engage with kingdom precision. Because the truth is, retaliation is simply confirmation that you've struck a nerve in the kingdom of darkness. And instead of backing down, you must reverse your discernment. Opposed and dismantled, they often shift their tactics from the invisible to the visible. When they can no longer manipulate you spiritually or influence you through demonic access, they resort to a more public and deceptive weapon, character assassination. Understand this. Witches do not just rely on curses and dark rituals. They are master manipulators of perception. And once their power is stripped in the spiritual realm, they will attempt to destroy your credibility in the natural realm. Their goal is not just to attack your reputation. Their goal is to undo your influence. Because when you walk in discernment and start awakening others to spiritual truth, you become a threat, not just to one individual, but to the entire network of darkness that has kept people in bondage. That's when the whispers begin, the false accusations, the subtle doubts others begin to express. They've changed. They think they're better than us. They're always judging everyone. It starts small, but it spreads like wildfire because witches plant seeds of suspicion and let others water them. They begin to craft a new version of you, one that looks controlling, proud, unstable, or divisive. They twist your intentions. They misquote your words. They provoke reactions and then frame them as proof of your aggression. Suddenly, the same people who once honored your wisdom start looking at you sideways. Conversations grow shorter. Eyes avoid yours. Opportunities vanish without explanation. That's not coincidence. That's spiritual sabotage disguised as social fallout. What makes this tactic so dangerous is that it often works through people who are emotionally close to you, friends, mentors, pastors, family members. Witches don't always assassinate your character with obvious lies. They assassinate it with calculated half-truths and emotionally charged narratives. They mix truth with manipulation. They paint your discernment as judgment, your boldness as rebellion, your boundaries as betrayal. Let me make this clear. When you're under a smear campaign, you may feel isolated, misrepresented, even betrayed by people you never expected. But this is all part of the enemy's agenda. The same way kingdoms in the natural world use propaganda to weaken public trust, witches use spiritual propaganda to weaken the trust others have in your voice. If they can't stop your anointing, they'll try to stop others from receiving it. But this should not shock you. In fact, it is confirmation that you've touched something sacred. Exposing darkness is not just about removing the demonic. It's about confronting the structures that protect it. And many of those structures are built on human allegiance and reputation. So the moment you disrupt their demonic comfort, they attempt to expose you before you expose more of them. And let's go deeper. This tactic isn't just external, it's psychological. Witches want you to start doubting your own discernment. When people begin pulling away, when rumors start circulating, when no one defends your name, you begin to question, did I go too far? Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I hurt people. That's not humility. That's a strategic spirit of confusion sent to weaken your spiritual backbone. Some of you are under character assassination right now, not because you failed, but because you stood up for righteousness. And instead of being celebrated, you've been marked, labeled, disconnected. But let me tell you something prophetically. Heaven saw it. The Most High saw the moment you said enough. He witnessed the moment you confronted that spiritual manipulation. And while people's opinions of you may have shifted, your spiritual rank increased. So how do you fight this kind of retaliation? Not with arguments, not with public defense, but with divine silence, spiritual consistency, and prophetic discernment. You don't have to defend yourself when you're walking in truth. Let your fruit speak for you. Time has a way of revealing what lies cannot hide forever. And while they're busy crafting a false version of you, God is preparing a public table in their presence. You must also pray with precision. Declare, Every voice raised against me in deceit, may it be silenced. Every lie spoken to distort my character, may it fall to the ground. I cancel every false narrative, and I declare clarity over every eye that has been clouded against me. You must also guard your own heart against bitterness, because that's what the smear campaign is really after. If they can't stop your purpose, they'll try to poison your purity. Don't let offense take root. Don't respond with anger. Respond with clarity and spiritual intelligence. This is where your discernment must operate at the highest level. Don't let sympathy for the witch silence your mandate. Don't let the opinions of the crowd stop your deliverance assignment. The truth is this: some people must leave so that the war in your life can be seen for what it really is. Because not everyone has the maturity to walk with someone who's being smeared by spiritual retaliation. That's why your circle may shrink, but your covering will increase. And while the witch thinks they've isolated you, what they've really done is cleared the path for your elevation. This is the hour to be unbothered, unmoved, and unafraid, because the one thing witches cannot counterfeit is consistent fruit. Your character, your integrity, your spiritual authority, when it is rooted in truth, it will outlive every rumor, every lie, and every attack on your name. They may assassinate your character, but they cannot be exposed and dismantled. They often